to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nope.
Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Lopez.
Thank you. Commissioner Bolin,
Present.
Commissioner Metcalf,
Present.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Leonard, Commissioner Bacon,
Present.
and let's see, Chair Halby.
Present.
All right. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right. Have you guys had an opportunity to look at the minutes?
Yep.
Get an approval for minutes for October 4th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 4th, 2023 as presented.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, new business. General plan, growth areas, discussion and public hearing. City of Coolidge General Plan 2035, covering the topic of growth areas and cost. Other topics of land use, circulation, open space, trails were discussed previously on Wednesday, August 9th meeting, September 13th meeting, and October 4th meeting, with later topics on environment and water resources to be discussed in Wednesday's meeting on December 6th and January 10th. This is a public hearing. Bill, you want to kick it off for us?
I can go. You want to?
Yes, absolutely. Phil's been practicing, so he spent some time and you're going over this thing. So take it away, Phil.
Yeah, well, I was practicing over there, but since everything got put away and shut off, I don't know what the clicker is, so I got to stand up. All right, then you have your laser pointer?
No, wait. Oh, wait. I do.
There we go,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you. It's like a weatherman without a pointer. All right, okay, tonight we are discussing growth areas and cost right here. I'm over here because I had to manually operate it. So as before, here's our 2025 general plan. The idea is to filter it through all these dates and inputs and eventually come out with what will be our City of Coolidge 2035 general plan. Once again, as at the other meetings, Arizona statute requires a general plan to be updated every 10 years. It's the city's policy document. It interfaces with zoning and building codes and other municipal code sections. Categories have included land use, circulation, open space, growth areas, environment, water resources, cost of development, and implementation. The City Council approved a citizen participation plan in July of 2023. That is the 6 months that we are going through now, from August through January of 2024. When completed, this will come to the Planning and Zoning Commission in March of 2024 for its recommendation. Thereupon, it will go to the City Council in June of 2024 for its recommendation and approval, and then reference to the general election for approval by voters in November of 2024. Notices and monthly updates with commentary sheets have been sent to 70-plus letters in state, county, regional, government, private, and nonprofit entities, 200-plus emails to other contacts, business interest in the private sector, emails to our department heads within the city, and posters and flyers have been distributed on bulletins in public areas around Coolidge. So, the growth area and cost portion. The 2025 plan, and this is the growth area section. I'm going to primarily focus in on the growth areas map tonight, just showing a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about these growth area numbers here, which is basically population projections based upon land use, and then just kind of going through the paragraph format here, talking about a little about some of the revenue streams, and then finishing up with basically, which is an efficiency chart relative to land use and taxation. So most of it I'm going to try to spend right here so that we can have focus on that. The 2025 plan focused on what was the original and primary aspect of growing smarter legislation adopted by the Arizona legislature in 2000. This meant that any jurisdiction over 10,000 people had to address several general plan elements, for which we are once again conducting in this August 2023 through January 2024 cycle. The growth and cost elements give specific understanding of a community's potential for developers to also understand those existing city utilities, or I should say infrastructure. There are 4 primary growth areas, as one can see here. The growth area number 1, as designated 10 years ago, was the primary traditional core of Coolidge with some of the nearby growth areas. Out here, obviously, is some of the other growth areas at the time. Then we have our boundary number 2, which is basically an enveloped area just outside of the traditional downtown core and some of the development at the time. And let me actually take a step back here and talk about them. Growth area number 1, which once again is in the brown here and out here, is the traditional town site and recent years of expanded infrastructure growth, mostly such as wet utilities, which was the water and the sewer, and in other areas like Cross Creek and Heartland Ranch, along with some other plat and site plan processes. Growth area number 2, as already mentioned, is basically an expanded near-term area around growth area number 1, which takes advantage of other potential adjacent or development to also make use of transportation and connectivity. Growth area number 3 in the green here, once again surrounding basically what's inside of it for 1 and 2, is a further expansion of such things above and below ground infrastructure and potentials of further connecting even more of what's in growth area number 2, which are kind of deemed as medium to long-term potentials for such things as planned area developments. And finally, growth area number 4, representing the largest landmass for the way the planning boundary was defined at that particular time 10 years ago, is the remaining inventory that completes all areas and holds the longest term for viability and flexibility of potential and possibilities for both urban and rural values, along with residential and employment locations such as further proposed planned area developments and large-scale job centers or job generators such as Inland Port, Arizona, down here, and the airport out here. So let's see here. I'll go to this graph here just to show what it looks like, but I'm going to come back to the map here. The maximum growth potential of each of these areas is estimated of those residential densities or the land use in that growth area. And this provides a range of population growth by the area and then overall to our jurisdiction. Each growth area in 2013 for this current 2025 plan called out a number of residences as follows, which are a little hard to read here, but I'll just come back to the map and call them out. For the brown area, it was estimated that possibly 66,000 residences could be potentially served within these areas. Area number 2, being the blue, had an additional factor of itself of potentially 148,000 residences. Area number 3, being in the green and continuing to grow out from the city center here, had a potential of about 198,000. And then once again, the purple area, or growth area number 4 here, being the largest remaining boundary at that time, had up to 426,000 residents. Now, let's think about it this way. These are actually only peak potentials, and many, if most, locations will not yield a population of this size. Specific land uses and densities thereof still greatly convey what is intended for these particular areas. In determining the cost of development, the level of service, types of services, and the capacity of existing infrastructure are all correlated to these 4 areas, and their specific and overall revenue structure to help maintain and pay for new improvements. The same thing, I'm just going to reference where some of the material is. It calls out some of the sources here, but basically come back to the map here because it's a little harder to read there, so correspond with this. General fund revenues include such things as property taxes, local taxes, licenses and permits, charges for services, and other municipal sources. Other potential growth-related infrastructure in place includes such things as the Highway User Revenue Fund, or HERF, which is collected of state fuel taxes and is used for city improvements and maintenance. There is also a wastewater fund to help cover wastewater services. then impact fees as one-time payments to construct new development improvements, and the proper and efficient identification of these growth areas overall, excuse me, help to serve and reduce other costs by being proportionate to those places of new development, along with encouraging programs to conduct infill development. So that's just a fancy way to say we got it all covered. This particular chart at the back of the section here basically is called the hierarchy of land use and fiscal impacts. What it attempts to do is group some of the land uses to its property tax revenue and sales tax and identify what its demand for service is and what its fiscal benefit would be. So interestingly enough, if we look at some of the land uses under non-residential, being the downtown core, office, and retail, they generally have a demand for services being mostly medium and high, and their fiscal benefit is considered to be high. On the contrary, but not unsurprisingly, residential land uses of agriculture, rural, ranchette, and urban neighborhood, also deemed as high and medium demand for services, actually correlate to what's called out as like a negative fiscal benefit. This is simply to say that because of the cost and grouping of infrastructure, from roadways, water, and sewer pipes, that the more frequently that they are used by the sheer and near numbers of their users, that a greater return of their investment is also attained because of their proximity. So that's just kind of the lay of the law, or the lay of the land there, excuse me. So that is basically the nuts and bolts of these categories. And I expect that we can spend most of our time focusing in on this unless there's some other subject matter. So I'll leave this on the screen at this time and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Jenner? Questions?
Nothing.
No? So what's the proposed impact with this growth?
In the upcoming updates, you mean? As
So-
far as population or?
As far as population?
Well, once again, these numbers were assumed to be generated at their maximum potential to understand what that requirement would be, regardless of some funding costs, but obviously identifying some of them. So in this particular case, it basically is just the highest pie sky estimation of population based upon the land uses and the categories or persons per household that could exist at that particular time. Our general plan boundary has, or our area planning boundary has changed. It's a little bit larger now. So some of those numbers in the areas will fluctuate, and the designation of some of the locations of the actual zones themselves will be some of the things that we'll be considering, whether they stay the same or change a little bit on some of the individual boundaries. So I would expect some of the numbers to change a little bit. I don't know if it'll go up, maybe it'll go down. But it's based upon a hypothetical situation, not necessarily related to like water and things like that.
So it's not based on acreage or square footage or natural resources?
It's like 4 dwelling units per acre times 3.2 persons per household times the number of the land use you can do. It's a typical practice for transportation. It's basically how Maricopa Association of Governments functions. They break up the entire metropolitan area, including even parts of Pinal County, as transportation analysis zones, and they try to predict the land use and the trip generation that will come as a result of the traffic there, so they can try to predict their long-range funding for transportation engineering. In a similar way, we kind of do that, for our area, but for specifically looking at all the utilities and things and infrastructure around here.
But in no way is this the projected growth of the city?
It's just like I said, the highest potential hypothetical situation if, say like California fell off into the ocean, all of a sudden there was 1 million people that wanted to live here. Not that that's going to happen, but it's just to know the maximum. Once again, the instrument by way of growing smarter legislation from 2000, which this conveys to even to this update, is basically to give the developers, no matter where they are within our planning area, an idea of the available or the potential planned infrastructure that would be required to serve that land use.
And Mr. Chair, that may be adjusted as we go forward. If these numbers were too aggressive, I guess is the right term, we may look at the data and see that. One of the things that we're going to do in the near future is a new impact fee study that will take a lot of this growth into account, the cost. So that'll help us add more information to this category so as we go forward, because that's an analysis that's done every so many years, usually every 10 years. But
So will we see that?
you will as information, but it actually will go to the city council, I believe.
Will we do that prior to what, our last meeting in January?
I don't know
Do you
if,
think
if
we'll be
we-
able
if the
to see
schedule
that?
will permit that. I know the city's moving that direction. I just don't know how fast they're moving. That's a financial function. The finance department will be conducting that with Gabe Garcia. We'll be involved, but it's generally done by an outside consultant. And so we'll still have the data, I would think, by the beginning of '24, somewhere in that area, I expect. And so that should be available too. So we'll be collecting more data. As Phil mentioned, it's based on assumptions, and they're high numbers, so we'll look, and if we need to lower them, to be more in line with what we believe will happen.
So I didn't see any cost data in here.
It's in the table.
Did I miss it?
Nope.
Basically, the sample of the general fund revenues that's called out, at least for percentages
eight?
at that time, was on 107.
Table 8?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are revenues and they fluctuate year to year, so it has like a total on the bottom, but if you look at budgets as we do them, they're generally a lot higher than this because they have to take into account potential grants, debt. So we never really spend up to our budget amount. When we come and present, our CFO is really clear with council and the public that this is a number in case we get some revenue available through growing, so some federal program that says we have $10 million available that you got a grant for. If we don't have it in the budget, we can't accept that money.
Right.
So it's always higher than what we're going to spend, and that's gone through that process. We're going to start that process really soon in finance, and you'll be able to see that as we go through that, and all the departments, kind of show what they need, the roads, projections as we grow, different parts of the city, so that'll be a public process. And that'll factor into this portion of it.
Okay.
All right? Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
No other questions?
Nope.
All right.
Public.
Yeah, we'll go to the public hearing. So I guess we don't need to close our hearing. We'll just open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to come speak about the 2035 plan, please come to the podium, state your name, your address. No takers? All right. So we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to conclusion. We good with that?
Yeah,
All right.
move on.
We'll conclude. We'll conclude this portion of it, and we'll move on to our normal business. Let's see, we've got, first item of business, Cool PZ 230938, major site plan submitted by Hanson Engineering on behalf of Desert Vista Rentals LLC for the Desert Vista Rentals on Broadway Avenue project, being a multifamily residential district, as 2 buildings with a total of 4 multifamily units on 3 parcels composed of 17,498 square feet or 0.4 acres, as located at 321 East Broadway Avenue, parcel number 205061240, 1250, and
Just double checking that it was 3
1260.
parcels. Oh, sorry.
Number on acres is .40.
That's what I said, 0.4.
Oh, I thought you said 4 point,
No, 0.4.
okay.
I never say the O. Gilbert, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. This is another application. We're very glad to see these come up because they're taking vacant parcels and make them income producing, where they give people a place to live, rentals, and also they contribute to the tax base of the city. So they're very, very good to see these continue. We reviewed this, and Phil may add another thing, but our recommendation is approval of the major site plan on the grounds that proposed use is consistent with the general plan and meets all the requirements set forth. And I think Phil's got a little presentation, and we can have the applicant apply. He'll give you some general information. There you go, Phil.
Yep, the standard stuff. In the site exhibit here, you can see the subject site right here. You can water and sewer lines has designated the nearest fire hydrants for the site exhibit here. The general plan map with the site here again shows our designation as an urban neighborhood land use. Excuse me. Same site right here on Broadway Avenue, designated within the R3 zoning district, which you can see is the majority of the area east, west, and especially north and south of the subject location. And just a few photographs here. In the upper left-hand corner, the disclaimer, the nomenclature calls out site looking generally southeast from the right-of-way of East Broadway Avenue. These next two photos are basically going a little bit further down the street. This is looking straight on to it. You can see the alley in the background here that's adjacent to the rear of the property. You can see the general dimensions of the rectangular element of the three parcels that exist here. And then the one at the bottom here is basically just sliding down the street a little bit more to give you an angle looking generally southwest. So the next thing here's the cover page for the major site plan, calling out basically its site statistics here. Everything is summarized in the report relative to the numbers here and consistent with what we receive for a proposal like this. This is the parcel combination that the applicant has provided. As you can see, it originally 3 individual parcels, now being combined into one, designated as parcel A. And then the site plan with Broadway Avenue here, north running this way, shows the 2 units. I don't know if you can see that, it's a little hard for me to see. One unit set east to west, the other one turned about 90 degrees, sort of north-south, if you will. The 2 different units in each of the 2 buildings. I think this thing's dying. The available parking for each of the units here, some additional tandem parking here if the need arises, and access coming from this direction and moving to the north onto Broadway Avenue. Some little things here. What has been shown here is 20 feet, and the fire chief had asked if there was a possibility of making that 25 feet on the entrance here, and then also providing a notation here that showed that this was 25 feet crossed here from this point to to not only assist emergency vehicles, but the trash truck or something like that, but I'm sure Tim can talk about that. And just the last thing here, this is similar to a design that you'd seen a month or 2 ago. You can see all the elevations here, looking where the parking is here, looking at the 2 different sides of the buildings here and what the architecture might look like. And then, of course, some floor plans with the vehicles in their designated parking spots. So I will turn it back over to the major site plan and turn it over to you, Mr. Chair, so that Tim, if he has additional questions for you that he can answer, he's available.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's a public, there's a public for 300.
It's a major site plan, so
Okay, no, but I mean, there's no public hearing.
look at the minutes, I believe, for anybody within 300 feet.
Yes, sir.
Phil, did I understand you to say that the road is going to be widened to 25 feet on the entrance, but not showing on our plan, or is it
Well,
not?
exactly, that's what the fire chief has suggested or asked for, if that'd be possible. There can be some limitations sometimes to the site plan. I mean, it shows the landscaping there, but sometimes there's the need for the drainage. and the capacity to meet that requirement and stuff. So he wanted the 25 feet, but if the drainage aspect dictates the width, he could work with that, but he'd prefer the 25 feet.
So what are we going to get, Mr. Hanson?
Oh, it's powered up, yeah.
I went to sleep. Good evening, Chairman Howby, Commissioners, and staff. Excited to present this tonight. With regards to Commissioner Boland's question about the 25 feet, we saw the fire chief's comment. The 25 is typically dictated under code as the minimum aisle in a parking lot with 90-degree spaces. 1307 of the zoning code specifies a minimum residential driveway width of 10 feet. So we're twice that. We
For a driveway.
could accommodate if it was really wanted to the cost of open space and landscaping. It's not required. Access is understandable for emergency services, but they're not going to fight a fire on site. With regard to the width of the asphalt turning into the southern duplex, that is 25 feet wide at that point, measuring from midpoint of curve to midpoint of curve.
So what we're really asking is if a fire truck can turn into a 20-foot and not hit either side on an 8-foot wide truck. Pretty much.
I think they can.
Depending on who the driver is, but yeah.
I
Okay,
think it would be more applicable if they were responding in an EMT scenario. If these buildings are on fire, they're going to be in the alleys or the streets. Right.
that's
Trucks would be
correct.
way too close to the buildings.
Yeah, all right. No, I just wanted to get a clearance whether we're getting a 20-foot or a 25-foot, but per what we're looking at tonight, we're looking at 20-foot. Okay, that's what all my question was.
It is our client's preference to maintain the 20-foot.
And 20-foot is fine with me. I'm just trying to find out what we're approving, if we're approving something different than what we're looking at. And we're not. What we're seeing is what we're approving. Okay,
Commissioner Boland, that's why it's under the fire chief's comment section and not under the stipulations. So.
okay.
Well, and personally, I think that many times we look to the fire chief for guidance on roadways, right? And I hate to not listen, right? And then put our community at risk or the residents at risk because an emergency vehicle couldn't get in there, such as an ambulance, right?
Absolutely.
Or EMT. Personally, I'm willing to sacrifice a few trees and bushes for the safety of the community. And if we need to pull that back, I personally would feel more comfortable with that.
And this is the entrance that he's making reference of as far as like turning in and out. I guess when somebody's sitting there, they're not going to perfectly have their vehicle right on the top line where, 0.0 feet starts.
Yeah,
They may have a
no.
tendency to be a little bit over this way. So he's not saying the remainder of the 20 feet this way is inadmissible. He's just wanting some portion of the entrance to be 25 feet wide.
So it could be the very entrance on the street, but Chief, we talked to him a lot and about these, and he'll say, I can live with this. If I could, I'd like, if we can get a little more, that's fine. But a lot of times he won't say, no, it won't work. I'm sacrificing. He will never make a decision or say that if he thinks it sacrifices anybody's safety. He won't do that. But he'll say, if I can get a few more feet, that's great, but I can work with it. So that's why it's just under a comment.
Tim, can you roll the entrance like that? Out there where the sidewalk and the curb is?
Commissioner Metcalf, I was just kind of getting ready to maybe mention that if we took the entrance here and flared it, what is 20 feet at somewhere 10 to 15 feet back,
Yeah,
and we'll flare or do probably flare out rather than a radius, and we can make that 25 feet to
There you
taper
go.
in to the 20.
There you go.
And that would be acceptable, if you guys wanted to add that as a condition. Kind of point of reference, your driveways on your houses, the new houses they build, they're 16 feet wide.
Yeah.
So the 20 is a little more, but widening the turn in wouldn't really have a negative effect on the site. It's easy enough to do, and we'd be happy to make that change.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't have to even go back 15 feet. Just make it a wider chute coming in so the truck can pull in.
I'm not sure how far it needs to go back. We'll do some design review on what that will take, and we'll put it back at what it needs to be.
Yeah. Don't
Chairman?
need to put any more blacktop down than you have to.
There you go.
You know, based on something else Mr. Hanson said, the chances of a fire truck actually entering the property for a fire are fairly low. First off, the fire hydrant is out on the corner.
Yep.
Secondly, there's a full alley access to the back building.
Yep.
So they are not probably going to want to bring a fire truck within 25 feet of a burning building.
Nope.
They're going to want to keep it back away from that, A, where they can get water, and B, where they can fight it and have a decent safety margin for the firefighters.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm not sure, I mean, the flaring will be nice, I suppose, but I don't think it's going to be necessary, because again, based on the depth of this lot, Tim, what is the depth of the lot? I don't know off the top of
It
my head.
is
160.
a little over 175
75.
Yeah.
by
So
100.
again, they're going to have a fire truck within 100 feet on either side of that thing. And we've got enough fire trucks that they're going to work both sides of it no matter what. The only time you're going to have a fire truck and an ambulance in there is when you've got a medical situation and the fire department is going down to assist the private ambulance service
Yeah.
in taking care of it. So the flare
Well,
will be nice, but not big deal.
Yeah.
And commissioners, a lot of times if you have a fire, and we just saw it, the one over on Baca Inn, they use a ladder truck, and you know, they put water down from on top, and we've had situations, industrial sites, they also, when Bright was on fire, the ladders are the what they use, and they'll even bring in trucks from Florence and other places so that they're dousing the water down. If it's a small fire, they might park on the street and use the hoses, but
Sure.
everything we've seen, you know, and I was trained as a fire inspector in the city of Chandler, so I'm saying we've seen that.
just this last week, I had the EMTs out in front of my house. And hook and ladder showed up first, and then they called the ambulance in. And I don't know that that would be adequate for them.
And that's why we have the smaller brush truck. They're trying to use that more for situations like this where they don't need the full fire truck because it's so expensive to run that truck and it's so big. I mean, you get into Heartland in those areas, you know, sometimes people park and you know,
Oh, I
it's hard
know.
to get that truck through there, you know.
I know.
You
That's
live
what
there like I do.
spurred
so-
this whole conversation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the smaller truck is what they're using to run on a lot of these runs, save money and be more efficient, so.
I have no other questions.
Phil? No? No?
Nope.
All right,
Got a motion?
I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Oh, we
Oh,
gotta
Mr.
go
Chair,
we
sorry,
open this to
Public.
Oh,
public within three.
with 300 feet of the
That's
property,
right.
if anybody wants to speak on the property.
that's right. All right. At this time, we will open this to the public. If anybody from the public like to come up and speak within 300 feet of this project? No? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can get it from Development Services. How many square foot are they? Tim?
Chairman Halby, I believe the total building footprint, it's somewhere.
We looked at it, it was about 1,300. What is it?
You guys, excuse me, the Planning and Zoning Commission had in recent months seen a similar product like this. And part of this report was kind of based upon that, since it was using some of the exhibits, although this is unique site, and it was estimated, including some of the garage carport area, was about maybe 1,300 feet, including interior space, but then also the carport, so, per unit.
So it does meet the R3. This is zone
Yes.
R3, which is multifamily. So not all, of course, you see a lot of single family in R3, but they, when you have vacant lots like this and with the need of rental housing, you know, obviously, it's, we're seeing a lot more of this product to try to address that.
The duplex footprint's about 2,600 square feet with the livable under roof of each unit in the 1,000, right around 1,000 inside, not including the carport area.
And that's a nice size unit for a two-bedroom unit. 1,000 square feet is a very nice size unit.
Yeah,
Very
nice,
rentable.
small family home.
Yeah, very nice rentable unit for any spectrum of renter.
These types of duplexes are actually right across the road on Elm Street, several of them, and then some other places in town.
Aren't the ones right up the street the same basic size?
Yeah, they're probably the same units.
Yeah.
There's some 3-bedroom units that are similar to this too. They're a little, I think they're 65 long instead of 55, but they didn't work for this site. They just couldn't meet setbacks in open space.
Thank you.
Chairman Halby, if I may, I'd like to just, for clarity, moving forward, address some of the Public Works comments in the staff report.
Okay,
Noted to have curbing installed and striping. Zoning code 1314 related to striping and 1317 to curbing. Those items are not applicable to single-family townhouses, duplexes, triplexes, and such, or this site. And Development Services did not add that as a stipulation, but
Yes, true.
I don't, when the client goes to permit this, I don't want it to come up for any misunderstanding of what the intent is.
The reason, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, the reason why the comments were left in there is because of the similar project, although it was much larger, it did have striping and handicap. So they just wanted to be sure that in case some minor changes happened with regard to the drive and parking situations, stuff like that, that this would still be there to be able to be addressable. So, but like, once again, like Tim points out, it's under the comments and not under as a stipulation, so.
so it's not applicable.
It's a comment, yeah, from the department,
It's not required by code.
yes.
Thank
Are you
you.
okay with that?
I am, thank you.
Very good. All right, now we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Cool PZ 23-09-38.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No, that's the CUP. Who seconded?
All done?
No, I'll get it.
So our next item on the agenda, Cool PZ 231040, conditional use permit requested by Nathan Helby, who is actually my son, so I will recuse myself. But in doing so, we don't have a quorum.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. Yeah, we met with our legal advisor, maybe he'd make a comment on that, and so we do it correctly.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's correct. With recusal, we'll drop below the quorum, so we cannot transact business currently on this item. What I would do is have staff to direct staff to have this item placed on the next agenda, and then also put it on the record that the public hearing for the conditional use permit will be at the next meeting as well. So there's no additional costs incurred for the applicant or for the publication.
Okay. So we'll do that. Okay, we'll put Cool PZ 231040 on the next agenda item for the next meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will
And,
do that.
condition, you said?
No, no,
With no condition.
yeah, no condition, that's fine, that works just fine for the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Public notices will go back out,
Do we have to?
yes?
Yes, it's true. We'll do that.
It will not need to be re-advertised because it's being put, if anyone showed up for the public, hearing tonight, they're being put on notice that they can show up for the next meeting,
Okay,
which is, what's the date of the next meeting?
December 6th.
December 6th.
very good, December 6th.
Chair, if I might though, if there is anyone here that received a notice that would like to speak in the record right now, they can. It is a public hearing. If not, it will be back on the agenda on December 6th.
Anybody like to come to the podium, please? No? All right. We'll move to reports.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we've got a lot of activity going on the boulevard. You can see line of fires started construction across from us, just across the street. It'll be 5 suites for contractors to utilize and store equipment and do that type of thing. You approved that a while back in the site plan. And then we have the storage facility near Dollar General. It's getting real close to being done. The paving's done. They need to landscape the front, so that's moving along really well. If you notice the landscaping that went in at Shope's IGA,
Yeah,
it's
it looks
looking really good with all the landscaping
good.
and everything. So they're getting very close also to getting that terminated. They completed, and they have some work they're doing inside the building actually. If you've been inside the store, there's some construction going on there. So that's moving forward. We had a call from Burger King, and not us, but Arizona Water. We met with Arizona Water this month, and they said they requested a water meter for 1.5 inches to be installed. So that's a really good sign.
All right.
So we're happy to hear that.
Gotta have water to make burgers.
Yes, you gotta
I
have
have
water.
water to pour the concrete.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So no, that's a good news. And Roberto's, we worked with them. They're just north of Dragon City. They're proposing a modular building that looks exactly like what was approved here. And we said,
Did they get through ADOT?
yeah, they've talked. I called ADOT and they said, yeah, we work with them. You know,
Okay.
they're okay. They're going to do whatever they recommend on the entrances and everything. So that'll be addressed by ADOT. And then so I told them give us the elevations. So they said it has to be look really close to what was approved. And they said absolutely, it'll look. They built it in a building. They put it on concrete. It's a slab, so it's a modular building. It's not anything else. And so it'll look a lot the same. In fact, Phil looked at some Burger Kings up in Phoenix that were modular. Can't tell the difference. I mean, they look really good.
So does a modular building need a conditional use permit?
No, it's part of the site plan. It's part of because that was already approved and the zoning allows it. So it's a construction issue with the building official just needs to approve it. And then we get certifications from the state that it's inspected in the factory. So we get that documentation from them. So it goes through a kind of a separate process through the building safety department. But it's still, the on-site is still the same. The building has to be put there, bolted down, inspected, but the main portion of the interior is done in a factory. And, so that, you're seeing more of that because they're having problems trying to get construction crews and maybe materials. So we're seeing more of that type of construction. So that's good. So that means it's moving forward, though. They're going to send us those elevations. We can approve it. Things are going real well down south. Nicola's moving forward with all their things. Procter & Gamble, we're waiting for a site plan so we can bring it to you, but there's a lot of activity behind the scenes between Global Water and everybody else, and they're moving
A lot of ground being broke down that way.
Yeah, and we have just today we met with 2 large industrial potential prospects for site visits and everything. So we continue to see a lot of interest in iPads and down there, and then we have some more property that'll come before you in the future that will be some more industrial. We're doing an amendment to the general plan for that went through you actually with Brighton Village. They're on Randolph and 87. It's catty corner to Stinger, so that's pretty good. Also for the future, we've been showcasing that and saying this will be available, come in the future for consideration for more industrial. A little closer to town, but it's real close to the other industrial that we have there, so it's a good fit. And it's going to mayor and council. The public hearing will be the 13th, next Monday, and then they'll take action on 3 of the general plan items that you've already heard on 27th. So.
Any more word from the railroad about a spur?
Oh, they've been working on a spur with St. Holdings quite a bit. Yeah, there's depends on the applicant, but that's in the works. Absolutely, the spur will come out and it's on some of the lots. It'll come out into the iPads. Some of that will be covered by St. Holdings, and it just depends on development agreements who's paying for it. The railroad's they've been working diligently on that. Some don't need it, some do.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing, yeah. And then we were successful in getting that $500,000 grant from the state ACA for the road crossings on Erica Road. So we got notice for that, so that's really positive. And then we have money for the design of Erica intersection with 87 and Erica in the tune of 700,000, I believe it is. And then we'll see how the budget is next year. We're supposed to get construction money for that intersection, just like we did in Hauser and Hannah. And if you notice, if you've been out there, Hauser is activated, the lights are on.
Yeah.
And we can Hannah, I think we can, if we want to, we can petition to get that turned on. But it's ready to go. So as soon as the traffic counts warrant it, they'll kick that on.
Yeah, the roads look good out there.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, it's nice to drive out there and have brand new roads to show.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's a good thing. So I think, Phil, can you think of anything else?
Just to add to the Brighton Village, they actually just recently, last week, submitted to us their land area development amendment, and they want it to be called Brighton, not Brighton Village anymore. But what we'll be seeing in that is the 300 acres plus or minus of the changes that were the major general plan amendment, like 260 of it as an employment generator, and then some alignments and some other things for the major PAD amendment. But then they'll also hopefully be very soon, of all things, actually submitting to us that this body will see when we get it all shipshape and stuff, but that's involving almost 300 acres of residential itself, and it is assured water certificate locations within their master plan. So, good news.
Awesome. How about the Marriott or the hotel?
We contacted them. I know I've talked to him, and he tells me he's still moving forward. They're just working on some design issues. It could be like a lot of things. They're waiting for maybe I don't know if it impacts anything with their funding or maybe construction, because I know everybody's having a little hard time. It seems like everybody's pushing back to 24 to start. So that may be the case. I haven't gotten any official notification, but we did talk to him, and I said, "Are you still moving forward?" And they, "Oh, absolutely." I caught him going home for dinner. He was going home for dinner. Michigan. He picked up his cell phone, and I talked to him. So the latest we heard from him is he's moving forward. It's just a matter of
All right.
getting everything approved. So hopefully we'll see it. And we have more activity too on some other parcels, but they're not public yet. But they're pretty exciting. So we'll share them to you just to know when we were allowed to do that.
You guys are working on some new members?
Yes, hopefully we'll come to council the 27th with to fill some of the vacancies, and then it's kind of ongoing. We couldn't get everybody interviewed, so we're trying to get those set up, and then hopefully as soon as we can, we may just put part of the 2 people up, and then wait for the others for the next meeting, just so we can get people up, because we were short today, which is so we're going to fix that and we got at least 2 that fill the vacancies that we can take forward. So I may do that, and then at the next meeting, bring the others, whatever we do, with the committee, what they want to do.
Okay.
But we're trying to move forward with that. So I apologize for not having finishing it up. I'm trying to schedule the applicants to be available, and then with the 2 members of the council, the same. Carol's working on that for us.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Director.
Welcome.
This is a public hearing, so at this time, we'll do the call to the public. Anybody like to come to the podium and speak, please do so.
We have done- Please?
State your name and address for the record, please.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
great. Good evening, council. My name is Aaron Gallagher. I work with Arizona Public out in Casa Grande. I'm a CPA covering the Florence and City of Coolidge areas. Address is 50 North Brown Avenue, Casa Grande. Couple things I wanted to cover with you today is updates on the residential and commercial projects that we are currently working on. But first, I wanted to just reiterate what Mr. Garthbright? Great. Okay. Just reiterate what he was mentioning earlier in the evening with regards to residential growth, right? I just want to reiterate that with APS is projecting somewhere around an 84% growth over the next 10 years in the state of Arizona, with most of that growth being in the Pinal County district. So definitely spot on with that. Also, I can't mention how excited I am for all these projects coming to the city of Casa Grande with the Burger King that you mentioned. We are in the design and pre-construction phase of that project. So very glad to hear that they're moving forward with getting their water meter. Additionally, we have Procter and Gamble coming in, waiting on the files to be submitted to get beginning on the design process for that. We also have Line and Fire. I heard that mentioned. We just had survey out there this past week to stake the new location of the facilities to serve them. So we are, I believe, waiting on easement at this point for them and forward to get them power. So very excited for that. We also have an AT&T cell tower that's coming in off of Wilson Avenue. Been working closely with them. However, they're just having a hard time with their panel given the supply chain issues that that industry has been facing since COVID. So that's pushing a lot of our larger commercial and industrial projects out just because of availability. So moving to the residential development, really proud to say that Mr. Gherkin over there and his team are doing just a great job of building homes and providing rental properties to the citizens of the city of Coolidge. They've so far built houses on Northern Avenue, Seago Avenue, Elm Avenue, Burke Avenue, and a duplex on 3rd Street that have all been energized in the past few months. So thank you to Mr. Gherkin and his team for that. We are also working with a very nice woman, Liz South, on her Alder Flats Apartments project on Shannon Way. We are working with her to find alternative means to her panel situation as well, because she was unfortunately also victim to the supply issues. So I believe that is all I have for you this evening in terms of updates, but I do welcome and open the floor for it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, you're also working on the line sighting for down south from the Milligan substation to maybe come up to iPads and bring in a 69 kV.
Yeah, I can't speak into that personally because I'm only in the distribution side of construction. However, there are plans from our transmission team to make that tie to relieve and redistribute some of the load off of the Coolidge feeders.
Yeah, it's going through the public process where we've met with Richard Rosales and so,
Right.
where the line sighting processes, they look at different alternative sites to bring power up. And we have the Erica substation at IPAS, which provides power, but with some of the big clients we have that use a lot of power, we have to bring more power in. I know APS has been a great partner to do that and commit to bringing more power up and big power. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have plans to build 2 brand new to help relieve that load. So that should be within the next 10 years, I believe. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
great. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to come up and speak? No takers? All right, we'll close the public hearing. We'll move a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.